Pollard said something that I was really fascinated by, and I decided to go track down the numbers and see if what he was saying kind of fits.
All right.
At the beginning of the season, right, everyone said the right thing. Oh, Tony Pollard, he's back, he's good to go, and everything's going to be okay. And then you watched him play and thought, something's not right. So Tony Pollard said yesterday, at the start of the season, he was still working through the leg fracture from January more than he realized. And he said, I would say right now it's a night and day difference. You think you're good. You think you're all the way back until you're actually out there making plays at full speed, and then you're feeling it. And so that makes sense to me. So partially physical, but also a mental capacity to it. And he goes, once you get a feel for it, get your feet under you, then you start to realize, oh, so I have lost a little right here, but I'm picking it back up. Mm-hmm. Okay, just based off of, not the numbers, we'll get into that. Just based off what you've seen in, let's say, the last month or so, does it feel like Tony Pollard has been picking it back up?
Feels like he's been more efficient with whenever he's getting – actually just efficient with him within the numbers. But it also felt like once he's gotten to level 2, he's been able to get an extra 5 yards.
Okay, yeah.
It's felt like he's been able – there have been runs where you're like, oh, that's a tough run right there. Like, I didn't expect that. You would see him – get grabbed by the ankle and tripped up and stopped at the line of scrimmage or a couple yards past the line of scrimmage. And right now it feels like he's getting those extra tougher yards that go along with it. So that's where, just based on feel,
yep,
that's what I'm feeling. But Kevin, I'm also kind of feel like he's not getting as many touches as I expected him to get this season. I feel like early in the season they kind of loaded him up a little bit. Games were kind of out of hand anyway, and they're trying to score in red zone. But it feels like we're kind of probably in the less than 15 touches range for him, and I just feel like that's not necessarily what I expected this year.
Believe it or not, it is actually higher than that.
Okay.
It's probably his production that has led to it feeling that way. But your feel is backed up by the numbers. So first 9 games, 3.9 yards per carry, with a total of 2 touchdowns in 9 games. In these last 5 games, 4.4 yards per carry with 3 touchdowns in that span. So obviously your yards per carry jump up about half a yard. Do you still think that it should be higher based on previous contributions of Tony Pollard? Of course, but he's getting to the end zone. Here's the other thing to your point about the touches. He had 3 catches per game in the first 9 games, 4.5 per game in the last 5 games. So what you're starting to see, Corey, is you're starting to see him creep up towards that about 19 touches per game.
Okay.
And so you're getting closer to, do you have an idealized number? Would you like to see him get 20, 22? What are you thinking there?
I mean, the way this offense runs, I want to see CeeDee Lamb get 11 to 12.
Sure.
Like that's kind of what I want out of him, be efficient with those numbers too. Tight end, get about 6. So, yeah, probably about 19 to 20 is where I don't want him.
Okay.
I don't want him to be over 25. I want this team to be in a situation where they can say, all right, we're good enough in this game to just go ahead and rely on Rico Dowdle for the rest of it. We can power run this thing to, out and move on from it. So that's kind of where I want. I am kind of interested in that he doesn't have any receiving touchdowns, does he?
That is correct.
And I feel like when they get into the red zone, these end arounds, these sweeps, these plays where they're like, hey, we're going to go to Turpin and CeeDee Lamb instead, have become more prevalent. And I wonder if they just don't feel comfortable trying to use Tony Pollard in a power situation because the box is going to be like that, or they're just like, look, this is how we spread the box out. Or maybe if they're just setting up for later in the season. Your tendency is you don't go to your running back whenever you're in the red zone. You go to other places, and then, playoff time comes, and they're like, no, we're going with the running back here.
It's weird because they didn't seem to suffer that problem last year. Tony Pollard has 5 touchdowns, as I told you, this season. Last year he had 12, and 3 of those were receiving touchdowns. So I agree with you in terms of the disconnect. And somebody texted in, I think this is probably right from the 817. Sounds like Tony has a football equivalent to the old boxing saying everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And that did seem to be the case. But what I appreciate is he seems optimistic that he's beyond that now when he says, oh, so I may have lost a little right here, but I'm picking it back up. So the other thing that's encouraging to me about that is he didn't say, I've got it all back now. He said, I'm picking it back up. So how much of a boost would it be for this Cowboys team if he continued to get better? Like, let's say you look at the last 3 games of the regular season, and he went from, I told you, 3.9 per carry to 4.4 per carry. What if now it jumps up to 4.9 per carry, like in these last 3 games? I know you're not adding a new player, but that feels like that would be hugely beneficial, especially if he could do that with a wounded offensive line.
I remember talking with Jesse Holley about Todd Gurley. I remember he missed about 3-6 games early in the season and then came back and was tearing it up. And Jesse was like, look, that's what's going to happen. A dude comes in with fresh legs. He's going to destroy guys that have been playing for a few weeks because they're already wearing down. Their bodies are already starting to do that. I'm not saying that he's, there, but, Zeke, by the end of the year, when he has 370 carries or whatnot,
right,
it's just like, oh, man, is he going to be able to make it? Like, can he move? And so I do feel like you're going to have a little bit of a fresher Tony Pollard late in the season. That should help. And a fresher, very motivated Rico Dowdle late in the season is a benefit, too. So I'm curious to see if they ever add Deuce Vaughn back to it or for, kind of in the
Do you think that ship has sailed for this year?
I don't know. Because anything could happen with Dowdle or Pollard. And then you're like, well, we need another running back to go here. And his fresh legs could be something that could be a benefit too. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Tony Pollard does this at the end of the season here. Because last year was tough, man. Last year was tough. You knew you had a chance in that game, and it kind of all dissipated when you said our only real option is CeeDee Lamb right now.